What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of the Universim Season 2. Just going into the expedition camp now. You can see down at the bottom we have 65 or so, and that immediately goes up to 280 upon completing that, and that was the one where I sent the 30 educated nuggets. I think that almost caps us out in terms of the yellow quests that are on the yellow research. It leaves, I think, one off, and we can finish that off easy enough anyway. So yeah, back to the game in hand. We won't need to do another expedition again because we won't get anything from it that is warranted. Rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. So another infected corpse. So cleaned up the mess by obviously sanitising the area. Moved the nugget into the nearest grave I could find, and then shut down a graveyard in that location so it never happens again. And by never happens again, that's obviously after the actual cemetery is built. But realistically it shouldn't happen again. Here is another one. So once again the same process will be, I will clean it up, move them, and put down another cemetery. As the buildings, i.e. in this instance the iron mine runs out of resources to mine, I'll take it down, clear up the mess, and it gives some prime real estate for whatever I need in that area, likely an eatery or a hospital. As it's quite close to the centre of the city there. The planet is certainly getting busy, but there's a lot of space left. I don't think we've quite done a third yet, but maybe about close. I'm going to say close. I don't know, to be honest. And I'm here again, making it rain. Rain like it does in Spain. I think that's the saying. Though it don't rain in Spain much, right? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm making it rain to get rid of the polluted water, but there is actually a solution, or there is something that I didn't really consider until I, Googled it and then realised it made sense. It's hard to show at the minute, so I'll show properly a bit later on when I'm actually doing it, but suffice to say, the actual problem is the amount of pollution that's being created by all the buildings, obviously. That is depicted in your planet stats in the bottom right hand corner where them leaves are. Although it looks good, what you're actually interested in is how much pollution you're gaining as a percentage. Just renaming the bridge there because it did lose its stats. Don't know if everybody noticed, by the way, but it did hit over 10,000 travellers before Sweden was upgraded to 2.0. But yeah, so the percentage of pollution gained is what depicts what happens on the planet. The first thing it does is indeed makes the lakes polluted and gives you the odd polluted or infected cloud, or whatever you want to call it. So there is a lot of parks that reduce CO2, and it's them that you need to build to get that number down, and the lower that number, the less likely it will happen. But when we get to that, I'll show you properly, because I believe it was up to over 20%. And I got it down to like 3, I think. So we'll see in the future what happens. In the meantime, we're going to have to fix the infected areas that are happening, so I'm going to need to go around and do a lot more cemeteries. I'm not going to show you that happening one by one because it's boring, I'm sure. But what I am going to do is make sure I do that. I'd rather have too many cemeteries and nobody rotting than people rotting and me having to deal with it all the time and get infected, and it's just a waste of creator points. And I want the creator points to stay steady so that I can use them for when we go to the moon, because the trees and water that come free from your creator points are important, and it saves having to use other resources. Crunching out more nuggetoids. As I see it, there is no other use for the unobtainium. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I was a bit skeptical that I might have needed to use it for the nuclear power plant, but you don't. You use normal fuel. So actually, for every bit of that I get, I'm going to throw it into a nuggetoid, and we're getting a few now. We're in the teens. Looking at the garages now, there was a huge problem. I realised that people are walking. They shouldn't be. I have 8 of those buildings. It was at this point that I realised the problem, because it's only giving 250 instead of 800, is the fuel. So you can see down there in the bottom right, my fuel is significantly low. I need 40 fuel per 10 minutes to give everybody a vehicle. I have nowhere near that. So what I need to do is drastically increase the amount of fuel we're gaining, because we need it for the cars and therefore the movement speed of every single nugget in the game. But we also need it for the nuclear power plant as well, which, to be honest, is where we're getting all of our power from, because the hamster wheels are wank. Or I could just say pants. You pick which one you think. I mean, I've not actually seen any comments on it yet. I would like for somebody to what's your thoughts so far, right? I mean, for me, apart from combustion, which is likely going to be first or second, I see kinetic as last. If combustion, all it does is gives us CO2, I can counteract that with parks, but it's constant as well, as long as we can provide it with the fuel it needs. And what that fuel is, I don't know yet, but the kinetic was just a nightmare. I mean, I've had to sack the minister because he was building them left, right and centre, and nobody was using them. So yeah, I'd be interested to hear what other people think, but I can't really see any positives for the kinetic, because even down to the fact that it's clean and free is that it needs a nugget to do it. Well, the wind turbine does all of that without a nugget, as does a solar panel. So yeah, at the minute, I do think that kinetic power is about as useless as it can get for the game anyway, and certainly for what I've tried to use it for. But maybe my planet's too big, I don't know. So just to show you, I am making a new area over here. This is for fuel production. So there's a graveyard, 2 fuel refineries, 2 warehouses that I'm waiting to be built, because I picked up loads of stone to help them build quicker, and I don't want to waste it. An engineer's hut and a water reservoir. That's all that's there. But the idea is, once them buildings are built, we'll get triple the amount of fuel coming in, and that should fix the problem for the vehicles and the movement speed overall. Throwing down the airport. I did research this a while ago, but I either didn't notice or couldn't be bothered, I'm not sure. It's a bit annoying that it's too big. I can't find anywhere where it to fit, that it's not going to block the roads and stop the roads from spawning, so I tried to put it there in the hope that that road would go past it, and I think it does. I'm not entirely sure I know what the airport does, albeit look cool. And yes, I was trying to stick that on that little island there, but it said no. It's so tall, that building. It's just unnecessarily tall and thin. It's probably one of the ugliest buildings, in my opinion. Sweden is up to 1,700 travelled. You can see it just from here. It looks like a real busy bridge, just like in the real world. It's quite cool. I've got hyperloops, but I'm going to spoil this and say, no, I am not going to use them. There's no need to for me. You can only do it from 2. There's no stopping in between. And once the vehicles are resolved in the future, they are much quicker than any other transport mode, to be honest, and it's much easier because you don't have to waste an enormous amount of energy and resources to build the said hypertube. So I'm at that stage again where I need to upgrade all of my water storage and providers, but I'm not making the same mistake I did last time. So instead of just upgrading all of them, I'm going to upgrade these along here first, and then just behind there are 3 water towers or reservoirs. I'm going to upgrade them as well. Once they're finished, I will then upgrade the rest, so at least no one will run out of water and no one will die or drink from the lake, which is the biggest nuisance from it, and then they all get infected. Still a lot of infected zone messages popping up, as you can see. I'm dealing with that in between where we're talking. Same principle. They're just picking the most random ways to get to places. As you can see here, apparently there's a highway through that forest past the airport. So I just need to keep on top of it, and at some point they will slow down or stop. And as last time, right next to the Cosmodrome, I am chucking in the spaceport that allows us to transfer goods quite easily, I might add, from this planet Earth to the next area we're going to, and again, this is beta, so it's the moon only, but in the future that will be multiple planets or a different planet, whatever it may be. But yeah, so it's critical. That is going to take a long time to clear out though, all of them trees and stuff, so I'll let them get to it. A little time later, and you can see the actual spaceport was moved a little bit. I just moved it to where there was less trees. I helped them clear out the trees, but you don't want to see that using the telekinesis spell, right? So yeah, that's now finished.
And the 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍 is ready with a rocket. It's not ready to launch. It's waiting on the resources. And I need computer chips. That is my massive bottleneck at the minute. All of the buildings are being upgraded, so they're having them first. The clone tower, I did do some clones. So here we go. All 5 of them are just random red or blue. And I gave them traits. But to be honest, all of them I gave the mateinator. So the idea here is that I've just released 5 clones that just want to mate until they die. To try and get the population up. Whether it'll work or not, I'm not sure. But it's also another way of doing the... Instead of doing that spell where I keep, obviously, telling them to mate. I was just admiring the labels there on the building saying, come back with a warrant, and stupidity is not a disability, park somewhere else. Quite funny. And another polluted lake. So we'll have to jump over to that. Don't know if you noticed there, but there were flying vehicles now, and they are pretty quick. They do follow the roads, but they are fast. So if we log in, and by the thumbnail, I'm hoping I used them as a thumbnail, because I do think once they're like this, it just looks fantastic. Sticking up off the planet. And then a plane passing by as well. Really cool. But yeah, all the flying vehicles are so fast. Faster than the hypertube, or at least they're probably slightly slower than the hypertube, but the hypertube can only go from and to 1 and 2 locations. There is no in between. Whereas that movement from these can be anywhere they like, wherever there's a road. Just bring you back again, and you can see we've got a significant amount of fuel now in the bottom. And also we're using 64 per 10 minutes, which we are able to pay, and therefore 800 out of the 850 nuggets that we have are able to fly, drive, whichever way you want to call it. They're actually flying, technically. And then they just land down for wherever they want to go, jump back in the car, take off, and off they go again. Nuggetoid-wise, we're at 20, so they're going well as well. I've got 1 unobtainium remaining that I'm going to use for another one as soon as I get around to it. That's all I'm using it for. But yeah, they're useful. They don't require food. They've got plenty of health, and they get the job done quicker than any nugget would. And then in terms of research, you can see there that is the last item. And we've completed the research once again. So Season 2 research will be completed as soon as that last item is. The item that you can see next to it that is unobtainable, we're not allowed to research it. That is the upgrade for the combustion power that we will learn in the next version of the game, the next season. Or next series, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure what the right word is. I suppose it depends on where you're from. So you can upgrade the power plants, combustion power plants. But it's quite late on, as you've just seen. It's all, well, actually, it's at the end, isn't it? So when we do get the combustion power plants, note to everybody that you can't upgrade them until that very last segment there. Throwing in some electronic factories here. 2 of them, in fact. There was space for it, so why not? I tried to build where there's less trees because it just takes them quite a while to knock the trees down. The bridges looking good though, aren't they? Space level bridges looking nice. Another polluted lake, but it's not the end of the world to get rid of it, but it is getting a little bit annoying. I really want to try and drain the lakes that I don't care about, but then it's bad for the planet. Okay, so getting into the pollution now, you can see, and I'm going to make it larger on the screen so hopefully it makes sense, but where the pollution level is, and then on that pollution segment, up in the top right hand corner of that pollution segment, you will see a percentage per year. That is what is causing the aggro for us, and that can be reduced by the negative effect on CO2 that all of the parks have. Now, I'm not going to say recreation, although the parks are in recreation, because within there are a lot of other items that do not remove the CO2. So it's very important to make sure that you pick the ones that have the reduction in CO2. Of course, then getting back to it, you just need to make sure you cap them out right. There are some that are capped, one is not. And you build all the ones that are capped as I'm doing now. I'm going to place down. I'll be honest, I probably should put them around to make it look nice, but yeah, I don't. So
you can see the Sleepy Springs place is unlimited. You can put as many as you like, but it's only minus 0.7. So I'll chuck a load of them down as well to see what it does, and then to see obviously how often or less often the lakes cause me a headache. Confirmation that the research is officially completed, and that's including the yellow ones as well. So the points we have down there for that are, I guess, wasted. I'm not aware that you can do anything else with them. So there is that. There is no research to do, and no point doing expeditions for the points. You can get resources from the expedition camps, but it really isn't worth it. The discovery points will be just wasted. We'll still gain them because we've got schools, universities, theatres, whatever, but at the end of the day, we are now officially completed once again with all of the research. That little rocket you can see shooting off there, by the way, that looks quite cool, is the space age cemeteries. It shoots them into space instead of burning them on the pyre. And because I've got so many cemeteries, you see that happen quite a lot over my planet. So moving on, and in the depths of winter, I'm not going to skip it because we want the creative points. The nugget factory is going to get closed and everybody is going to get fired or reassigned, is a nicer way of putting it, because we have no unobtainium, so there is literally no use for that building and wasting 6 nuggets. We already know that's ready, and you can see the rocket itself there is ready to go, which means the electronics were delivered. Everything's ready to go, so you click the button, 210, and off we go to the moon once again. And here we go on the moon again. Not sure if I showed quite this before or not on the last season, so I'm making sure it's in this time. Basically the same as when you start the game, you have to put down your epicenter. The epicenter for the moon, though, obviously is just a landing pad. Quite a little fancy one as well. I'm looking for somewhere to go near a larger water source, i.e. that 4,000 over there. But I don't like the land that's around it, and it would make it very difficult, I feel, to actually get anything built. So I end up going a bit further away from that towards the 2K, 2,244 water. Remember, there is no water there at the minute. They are lakes that are dry that you have to obviously fill up. So evolution tower, epicenter, whatever you want to call it. Are you sure? Yes, we are. That lands down, a bit of a plot, blow off the roof, and boom, there is your landing pad, followed swiftly by your rocket that you sent. I don't know where the landing pad came from, so don't ask. I don't know, because I didn't send that bit up. There is some solar panels to give you your first bit of energy, 40 energy you saw there. And then nugget-wise, I sent 20 this time instead of 5 like last time, which is quite a significant difference, right? So off they come, and they'll immediately jump on the various different things. The first thing they jump on is building their first residential. Meanwhile, I'm going to go in and pull out the buildings that I sent up, but unfortunately it doesn't quite work as nice as you'd like it to, because they steal the resources to build the residential buildings that you can't stop or control. I think you can pause it, but then they just build another one. So anyway, it's not difficult to get the resources up here, and it's quite pleasant actually. I find it quite pleasant to do. So there we can go straight away onto that pool and make it rain. I think I used 3 or 4 to get that topped up there. Chuck in the pump down on there and a reservoir as well, an engineer's hut and a graveyard, so that we've got the water side of it sorted, we've got the death side of it and infection sorted, and then I'll just chuck down a few other things as well. Obviously an eatery for fuel and a battery for power. Now, while the rocket is producing 40 and we're not using 40, we'll generate extra there, so that's good. But we are going to have to go to our favourite friend, Kinetic, because that's all we have up here. We can't afford to build the nuclear generator because we don't have the fuel to do it. I did put the Hydro Collider in the water there, and the idea is you're supposed to use that to fill that lake up, but it uses a lot of resources and it's a waste, so you will find very shortly I actually cancel it. I don't see the point of it at the minute. While I can use creator points on the moon, there's no need to use that. Maybe in the main build they'll stop you from, because I'm gaining the creator points from the Earth. you should really gain them from the moon, and then I wouldn't have enough to do what I've done. But anyway, we'll see. And again, with the whole forest thing, I've just created a forest. I don't need a terraformer. So we'll get that up and running. I am going to try the buildings, of course I am. But yeah, the Hydro Collider, it's just pointless. It's going to use all of them resources, and then it needs, I think, fuel, steel, and something else to run, and it's just not worth it, in my opinion. I can make it rain, and there's our water. Absolutely no difference whatsoever. So there's the first residential building, and you see the roads, by the way. They are these lines here to keep them safe, to know where to go. They walk along them in their spacesuits. I'm assuming they will get the vehicles working on there once we actually build that and we have an atmosphere and etc, etc. But for now, that blue line of laser looking things and beacons is their roads. They're going straight to work ripping down the forest that I just put in there to give them some wood. So you can start this like you would on the original planet, with your woodcutters and your stone miners and your stone masons, etc. But what I actually do is go straight for the logging camp for the wood, so that they get the wood from a renewable resource that they do automatically. And then I use a stone mine for the stone. Just making sure here that everything's getting built, but I'm realising that we are actually out of resources now. The resources we are missing are glass and electronic components. So going to the spaceport, which you can go through from the top menu with the two rockets facing opposite directions. I can tell the Earth planet to send me over some electronic components. 2 lots of 14. And then glass. You can do it in 10s if you switch it over. I did do it, but I was being a bit of an idiot here, unfortunately. And then 33 times 2, so 2 lots of 33 glass as well. And then in 2 minutes' time, or a little bit quicker because I've got it on double the speed, so in 1 minute's time, they'll arrive and then immediately get picked up by the nuggets that are labouring. And there's the first resource chest landing on the moon, right in the lake. They really don't care where they drop them absolutely anywhere. But I mean, like I say, I still like the idea of the concept of it. And here is another one coming as well. It does it as a flyby event, and you press F to go and view it. I don't know why you'd want to do that, because after you've done 1 or 2, it's boring. So please stop that. Creative, if you're watching this video by any chance, or give me an option, or give us an option to turn that off. It's not that exciting. So why would want to see it every single time? And I'll be honest, over the next sort of 10-15 minutes of real life, I must have done about 50 of them. So yeah, it gets a bit monotonous. Also right next to the lunar base is the unobtainium pillar, so I'll get that mined. Obviously need the resources, but then now I need the resources to actually run it. But at least then I'll get that unobtainium, and as soon as I can afford to, I'll send that back to Earth and give Earth a lot more robots to do to use as well, because there are, I think there's 4 or 5 pillars on the moon again. So as you can see, just putting in a forester's building there, which will allow us to gain renewable wood and therefore planks once that gets up and running. And then a stone mine, and I'll find somewhere reasonable for that to go, and we can get stone as well from one place, because then basic resources are required for the basic needs of the parks and various other things. As you can see at the top, the crime is starting to creep up, as is the happiness. Well, the happiness is creeping down. So we need to build parks, and to build parks you need bricks and planks, and that is an easy resource to obtain really, because we've already got trees and there's an abundance of stone on the moon. So still moving forward, getting all of these buildings up and running and figuring out what's missing and what we need before I go back to Earth to actually sort any lack of resources. But at the minute we're not struggling, so that's good. I think as it stands, we're going to do quite well on the moon this time around. The choice is yours, really. This episode's been a little bit longer than normal because yesterday there wasn't an episode. But the choice is yours, really. I can carry on for a little bit longer and actually get a city up and running on the moon, or try to. Or we can stop and start a beta version for the combustion side and try and, because I should be able to get that one in easily before the 22nd, where we go into 1.0. So do let me know what you think and how you want to proceed. If you want to see how far we can get on the moon, that's fine. Or we can try and reset for the combustion side of it. But on that note, we are over time, as I said, for a bit of extra for yesterday's missing episode. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please click like. Any comments are welcome. Subscribe for more. Take care. Goodbye.